I had a request to not just save the numbers for my expenses and put up a graphic on the screen one at a time to make a chart out of it, and I'm a very accommodating person, so I can do that. So first I will just tell you the numbers and give you explanations, and at the end I'll put up a chart with the graphics and the voiceover. Food, 2 categories. First one is like normal eating, $254.34 is that amount. And there was one fancier dinner. Me and my friend from Kansas went to Texas de Brazil. That cost $76.22. I could get laundry out of the way quickly. Laundry was $0. I did it twice in March, both in an Airbnb. So it was included, $0 extra. Rent was $12.41.30. That number is a lot higher than usual, for one, because of March Madness. So my Kansas friend and I stayed on the Strip during that weekend. I think my share, you know, when we split it, the first 3 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, was 400 something. Sunday was actually like a typical Sunday. It was like 10 or 20 bucks, but it was over 400 just for those 3 days. Also, a lot of Airbnbs this month. Not a lot of rooms on the Strip besides that weekend. And the reason is because I first book anything on the Strip and then fill in all the other nights with Airbnb. So when we knew we were doing this March Madness week, I got those rooms and then I had to fill in everything else. So March Madness weekend started on a Thursday, and usually my rooms on the Strip start on like Sunday. Start Sunday, ends Thursday, and then I fill in Airbnb on the weekend. This made it a little different. The week before, I needed to like start on Friday and end on a Wednesday, which is odd to do on the Strip because the weekends are really expensive. So I needed like a 6-night Airbnb. Before that, I started the month in an Airbnb. I ended the month in California for like the last 8-9 days at an Airbnb. So a lot of Airbnbs went into this month, and the price is still good. It's like 30 something usually for a night, but it's like 10, 15 a lot of nights when I stay at Rio Harris Valleys. And gas was $207.32. That's more because in early March I went to visit my parents in the Temecula area, so I drove to California and back. And then for that California poker mini-series, I drove to California again. So that's like 12 more hours of driving than is what's typical when I spend the whole month in Vegas. First, I'll put the grid up. Here we go. Across the top, months. Not that April and May have happened yet. And down the left column, the categories. Again, not every category of my life, but the ones that happen very consistently, and I think that I also share with most of you viewers out there. And then at the bottom, some room for totals for comparison. So I'll put the link at the top to the February video. I talked about all these, but here are the numbers in chart form, and let's get into March. So I told you what the food was. That was one fancy dinner, and the rest, you know, kind of normal eating. Rent is $1241.30. I told you that was mostly because of March Madness weekend, and there were a lot more Airbnbs than usual, which are more expensive than staying on the Strip. Gas, like I told you, a lot of driving, so California back and then to California again, but laundry was nothing, so haven't paid anything in laundry this year. Now, food for both months, a little higher than I expect. Herbs and Rye was in town for a lot of February, went to a bunch of steakhouses and some other places, and even in March, the number was actually pretty low until I went to California, and then I was with Herbs and Rye again, and we went out to eat some places. He did treat a couple times, and they weren't all very expensive, but the number was actually very, very low, like halfway through the month. Rent, February, is a much more indicative number of an entire month in Vegas. March had March Madness weekend, that was most of it, but also very few casino hotel rooms. So February is more of a typical number for rent if I'm in Vegas for the entire month. Gas, same thing. February is much more indicative. March had a lot of driving to California, and February, that's about 2 tanks, and that's, you know, what it takes driving around Vegas occasionally. Airbnbs back, a restaurant and back, up and down the Strip, things like that. So the total for February, right there at the bottom, $1354.75. The total for March was more, but looking forward to April, April could be incredibly small. I will tell you, at the time of recording this, I have 15 nights in April that have either already happened or are booked, and I know the price, and the number isn't even $150 yet. Paying with a lot of comps and getting some very inexpensive nights so far in April. So April and May can be incredibly small months, but we'll see. And remember, rice is a spoon food.